Hello, it's Spice Must Flow. I'm back again. And I was going to talk about, we will say, the alt-right. Um, it's kind of interesting. I've had several friends, acquaintances, other people that I know. Here, give me a second here. Gotta adjust that camera there. Okay. I had several people that I know say a variety of things about the alt-right. I've had a variety of people that I have known try to discuss what the alt-right is. I've had various people I know call themselves alt-right. Um, I've had other people say things about the alt-right where I'm kind of like, really? And so this is a it's going to be a short video. And the question is, what is the alt-right? Um, the answer is actually very simple. The alt-right is two things. It is a response to the conservative, I say conservative with air quotes, movement of the past, right? Um, that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is that it is explicitly a white nationalist movement. Um, I know a variety of people who have said, well, it's not explicitly white nationalist at all. Um, Early on in its existence, early on in it being around, I think that there was a fight over what it would mean. But I think at least as far as the moniker alt-right goes, the white nationalists have won the title. Um, if you are more of a cultural chauvinist, um, or something of that nature, the term new right is out there. I've also pejoratively heard it called the alt-light. Um, but the alt-right is basically into white nationalism, and it is very much a response to the black and Hispanic nationalism within the Democratic Party. And I say that without irony. I say that, I'm not joking when I say that. The Democrats have normalized racial politics. And so the alt-right is attempting to normalize racial politics within the sphere of white people. Um, and the title for this is the alt-right. The other aspect of it, and this is something the alt-right is by far alone about, is that it is um, a counter to what the Republicans have been, a counter to what conservatism, Inc., if you will, has been. And that is, you have this idea within conservatism for a while now that conservatism is basically about having as little regulations as possible. Conservatism is about lowest taxes. It's about free trade, and it is about the spread of democracy. Right? I talked about this in the past. Um, the alt-right is like, what? This isn't what conservatism is about. These things may be a good idea, they might not be a good idea, but they have nothing to do with being conservative, inherently. And to me, the huge wedge is this, right? The huge wedge right there on that aspect, which is something the alt-right only shares with a bunch of other philosophies, but is not exclusive to the alt-right. It's simply, it is a definer, but it is not the ultimate definer that really shows you that something is alt-right. And that is, to them, the ultimate thing is nationalism, right? To them, if you really want to take where the alt-right is coming from, you have to first of all take nationalism. And I'm not saying ethno-nationalism or civic nationalism or any other form of nationalism. You just simply have to first say nationalism, regardless of how we will define it, is important and is in fact at the core and the root of the philosophical underpinnings of the alt-right. And then from there extrapolate whether we should do this other stuff. And if you look at conservatism, Inc., if you look at the conservatism of the Bush years, or aspects of the Reagan administration, or Ford, um, really going all the way back to Nixon, arguably all the way back to Eisenhower. The Republican Party was not about nationalism, it was about internationalism. And it was about business interest and supporting and defending and extending business interests um, above and beyond the people. Okay. Now, the alt-right specifically has said, well, the people we're talking about are white people, and they are far more, at that, even then, they are far more congratulatory and, I guess you should say, bigger fans of white people of English and Scottish descent than they are of any other group. I mean, they're not exactly happy about Italians, right? Or Irish having been imported into the country. In the past, they don't, and they, that is an aspect. And it is interesting. Everybody would say, oh, yeah, well, the alt-right's racist. What I would say is that the alt-right is a reaction. And you could say reaction in terms of reactionary, right? That old political philosophy, and put it over there kind of in a fascist camp, right? That wasn't a Nazi salute. Don't worry. Or you could just simply say reaction, like a reaction to current state of politics, currently what's going on, right? But as I said before, it is acceptable if you're black to be a to be a black nationalist. It's acceptable to not like white people. If you're Hispanic, it's acceptable to not like white people. White people are, and here's the thing, the alt-right, you can't fight them when they say this. This is true. It is not acceptable for white people to unite to form a common identity and then pursue their own interest. And we could say, oh yeah, well, when white people do that, slavery happens. When white people do that, the Holocaust happens, etc. That's not untrue. But we're acting like things like that don't happen when other groups do the same thing either, right? I personally am against the alt-right's definition of ethno-nationalism for the same reason that I'm against black nationalism and I'm against Hispanic nationalism. Which is to say, anytime you develop along a strict ethnic boundaries on this thing, it'll lead to war. Now, here's the difference, right? The right is asking the question right now regarding the alt-right, which is to say, are they correct? If the alt-right is correct, that means that this thing is already set up. Bad things are going to happen anyway. We might as well get on board with what the alt-right is saying and assume the identity politics that they've already accepted. The flip side of that would say that we don't have to accept those identity politics as of yet. Functionally on the ground, I believe we are at a state of still getting to choose the tribe we want to align ourselves with, as opposed to it being chosen by our birth. The question is, how long will that last? As for the left, well, they believe they can play both sides against the middle. They believe they can import people into the country in terms of immigration and tell them that they don't have to assimilate to anything, and that black people and Hispanic people, that they can be given things, okay, from the public treasury, and pursue their own ethnic interests, but you can still hold it all together. Basically, they seem to believe that multiculturalism will work when multiculturalism has never worked ever at all under any circumstances. It just hasn't. All you have to do is look at history, but that's where they're at. So, I don't know. That's the short description of the alt-right. There are extensive videos by a variety of people. The question is, are they correct or not correct? And as I said, I would explain the alt-right that way. So, any rate, though, that's about it. You guys have a good one. Spice must flow.